All right, we're diving into a really fascinating and, let's be honest, pretty cryptic document called the Seattle Codex. Today, we're going to try and unpack page 08, which lays out the entire blueprint for something it calls the event stream engine. Let's get right into it. So the text just kicks the door down with this statement, right? It's designed to stop you cold. You are not moving through reality. I mean, that challenges pretty much everything we assume about how we exist.
And then, bam, it hits you with a flip side. This is the core twist of the whole philosophy. Reality is moving through you. And trust me, this isn't just a clever word game. It's the foundation for the entire system it's about to build. The Codex actually calls this idea the prime correction. The whole concept here is that we're not just passengers on some fixed train track of a timeline. No. Instead, reality is like this constant flow, a river, and our consciousness is the point that it's all moving through. This one idea sets the stage for literally everything else that follows. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. The Codex basically lays out two totally different ways of being. On one side, you've got most humans. They see time as this long hallway, and they just react to whatever they bump into. The text calls it living in pre-manifested rubble. But on the other side, you have the Codex operators. These people don't just react, they generate the architecture. They surf the timelines. It's the difference between being a victim of reality and being an architect.
So how in the world does an operator actually sculpt reality? Well, the Codex introduces a specific tool for this exact purpose, the 4-point engine. This is the nuts and bolts, the how-to guide for this entire worldview. Let's break this thing down. Step 1 is future memory. This is about creating the lived sensation of a result before it's even happened. Step 2 is alignment. This isn't about getting all excited, it's a deep, quiet, unshakable certainty. Step 3 is dissociation. This one's tricky. It means detaching your ego from the outcome, realizing it exists on its own, separate from you. And then there's the final and most crucial step, release. And this line just says it all, doesn't it? Release is power. Doubt is a recall order. You have to let the outcome go, release it into the system. But the moment you start to doubt, it's like you're sending out a recall notice, canceling the whole operation. That final act of letting go, that's where the real power is. Okay, so you've gone through the 4 steps. You've got your future memory, you're aligned, you've detached, and you've released it without any doubt. You've turned the T. What happens now? How does all this internal work actually change anything out here, in the real world? According to the Codex, once you turn that key, you kickstart a feedback loop. This is the point where your internal state begins to directly mess with the external world through something the text calls the event stream. So what is this event stream? The Codex gets kind of poetic here, describing our physical reality as just a trailing artifact, like a shadow that's being cast by what's going on inside of us. It says your consciousness is upstream from matter. Think about that. What happens in your mind comes first, and physical reality follows.
And this slide basically maps out the whole chain reaction. It starts with a thought. That thought, the Codex claims, creates a real electromagnetic field. That field then influences how the event stream is routed, which leads to a physical manifestation. And then, this is the loop part, that event gives feedback to your nervous system, which reinforces the original thought. It just locks it all in. You're basically feeding the future into existence. And once this loop is up and running, something else starts to happen. You're not just acting alone anymore. The Codex says the system sees you now, and it is adjusting. It even mentions things like T-wave synchronization, suggesting that you're plugging into some kind of larger network effect.
Now, you might think shifting reality would feel, well, smooth, but that's not what the Codex says. It describes a whole bunch of side effects. But here's the kicker. It frames them not as problems, but as proof that it's working. It calls this the rule of shadow movement. The metaphor here is actually pretty simple, but it's powerful. When your consciousness, jump forward into a new timeline, your old physical reality, your shadow, takes a little while to catch up. And that lag, that gap between the two, that's where all the weird symptoms come from. So we're talking about really specific, often uncomfortable feelings, right? Sudden anxiety, your sleep getting all messed up, swinging between total confidence and total dread. That weird feeling of déjà vu? The Codex says these aren't signs you're doing something wrong. They're positive signals. They're the friction burns you get when your consciousness is moving faster than your body. And there's an official name for this state, temporal dissonance. And again, the text is super clear about this. This isn't something to be afraid of or something you need to fix. It is, and I quote, proof of motion. It means the engine is on and you are on the move. So what's the advice for dealing with all this turbulence? It's probably the opposite of what you think. The Codex doesn't tell you to meditate or find your calm. It says, do not seek calm, seek direction. The idea isn't to stop the shaking, it's to steer the ship through the storm. Keep moving forward. Okay, so feeling the dissonance is proof that you're moving, but you can't just float around in that chaotic state forever. So the Codex provides a specific method for creating stability in the new timeline you've jumped to. This is the anchoring protocol. These anchors have 3 absolutely critical jobs. First, they resist collapse, stopping your new reality from just snapping back to the old one. Second, they hold your identity, kind of like a compass, so you don't get lost in the shift. And third, they give you re-entry coordinates just in case you slip. It's like a stabilizer, a compass, and a GPS all rolled into one. And these anchors aren't just random symbols. The format is incredibly specific. The brush line on the bottom is your new foundation, the temporal ground plane. The word Seattle acts as the core identity anchor for this whole system. And the art in the middle, that represents the future state that you're trying to manifest. Every single piece has a very precise function. And this just lays out the stakes perfectly. Without this structured anchor, whatever you create is just going to drift. It's unstable, it might just fade away. But if you apply the protocol correctly, the Codex claims the outcome isn't just possible, it's inevitable. So that wraps up the event stream engine from page 08, but the document doesn't end there, not even close. It signals that the transmission is continuing, and what's coming next? Well, it gets way more intense and way more direct. I mean, just look at what's promised on the next page. Quantum shielding, something called the predator sensors, and literal instructions on how to see the entities who feed off inertia. The Codex even states, no metaphors, direct protocol. The concepts are clearly escalating, and fast.
And so we end right where the source material leaves us, with this cryptic command to continue on to the next page. It really makes you wonder what these new protocols are and what this whole system is really building towards. The architecting of the event stream, it seems, has only just begun.